Hello, English 1102 students. This is Mr. Rob Thompson, your instructor. I wanted to try this new technology out. I've never done this before, where I can explain this very important concept to you a little bit better, perhaps, than I can when I just type it out. I am looking, and you are looking at this sample literary analysis paragraph I wrote for Where Are You Going, Where Have You Been? I actually wrote 2 paragraphs. I got carried away. But this is the model of writing that you need to follow anytime you analyze literature in this class, or really in any class. When you write your papers, your short story essay, or your poetry essay, or in your discussion boards when you're analyzing literature. This is the pattern you follow. You start off with a topic sentence. You see here, the character of Connie in Where Are You Going, Where Have You Been by Joyce Carol Oates. Identify the title and the author. Is a naive 15-year-old girl on the brink of becoming a woman. That's an idea. That's not a fact. That's something I need to prove, you see. And I'm going to prove it through the text. At the beginning of the story, she is a typical young teenager eager to escape her parents' control and strike out on her own. Everything about her is described as having 2 sides to it, one for home and one for anywhere that was not home. So you see, I've done 2 things here. First, I have led into the quote. I have explained who she is. I have the quote makes sense now because I put it in context of the story. And then when I have the quote, I lead into the quote. Everything about her is described as, and then I have the quote. The quote does not stand alone as a sentence. The quote is part of a larger sentence. So those are very important steps. You have to make sure it's clear to the reader what's going on at that point in the story, and then you have to lead into your quote. And then all of this is analysis of the quote. You know, the quote is the heart of the paragraph. Her walk, her laugh, all are described as smirking and cynical at home. You know, the quote says she has 2 sides, one at home, one everywhere else. There's smirking and cynical at home, since she is a typical teenager. Outside home, however, she is described as bright and high-pitched and nervous, struggling to find her place in the world. Like most girls her age, she knows that she no longer wants to be a little girl, but is not entirely comfortable with what comes next. Again, home and anywhere that is not home. Little girl and what comes next. That's pretty much what that's talking about. So that's my analysis of the quote. Now, this is where, if the quote had archetypal things in it, colors, seasons, nature, whatever kinds of archetypes you could find, this is where you would talk about it. This is where you would analyze it. This particular quote really didn't, but you certainly would do that in your analysis, you see. And then I have another one here. Connie's encounter with Arnold Friend is a catalyst that ultimately pushes her over the edge into the strange, frightening world of adulthood. Again, a nice, clear idea about Arnold Friend. Now I'm going to lead into the quote. Arnold has a very intense interest in Connie as he flirts with her and asks to come into her home while her family is away. Again, I'm leading into the quote. I'm putting it in context of the story. Ultimately, Arnold does force himself into Connie's home and perhaps her body as well. He says to her, and then this is a wonderful quote, a very important quote. The place you come from ain't there anymore, and where you had in mind to go is canceled out. The place you are now inside your daddy's home is nothing but a cardboard box I can knock down any time. This is Friend's clear, succinct way of telling Connie it's time to grow up. And all of this, you notice how I've got a lot left to go here. All of this is focusing on that one quote. All of this is a discussion of that one quote. Her childhood is no longer a part of her life now that she has lost her innocence and her virginity. That is, unless I think she may have already lost her virginity when she went down that alley. But anyway, so the place of innocence and naivete from which Connie comes ain't there anymore. That's what he says. The place you come from ain't there anymore. That's her innocence. That's her virginity. That's her childhood. Like all teenage girls, she had hopes and dreams of falling in love, giving her sexual purity to the man she is truly in love with, but her violent encounter with Arnold shows that relationships with real men do not often fit this romantic ideal. Where she had in mind to go, in other words, is canceled out by the reality staring her in the face. Notice how I'm quoting from the quote here. Oftentimes I'm quoting from the quote to make my analysis clear that it is clearly related back to the quote. I'm always getting back to that quote. She thinks she is in a place of safety and security inside her daddy's home, but these innocent associations with one's parents' home are no longer available to a teenager on the cusp of adulthood. The truth is, Connie's daddy's home was never the sanctuary she once thought it was. Violence and danger can enter any home at any time, turning it into a cardboard box that is easily violated by someone like Arnold Friend. This is the harsh reality that Connie is forced to confront in Where Are You Going, Where Are You Going? Notice I end with kind of a concluding sentence. I wrap it all up. I wrap up all of this discussion in this last sentence, which is important also. And again, I'm really focusing on the quote in the paragraph. That's the heart of the paragraph. I lead into the quote, I have the quote, and then I analyze the words in the quote. And again, notice the quote's not that long, but my analysis is very long, because that's where I'm showing how smart I am, quite frankly. That's showing how much I'm thinking about the story. And so that's what I'm looking for from you. So anyway, I think that's important. I hope you stuck with me and paid attention, and hope this makes sense to you. If you have questions, of course, you can email me, and I'll be glad to respond. And I look forward to reading your writing in the future. Thank you very much.